Let's turn now to the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Admiral James Stavridis. Admiral, it's been more than 3 weeks since Ukrainian troops crossed into Russia. Should we expect a stronger push from Vladimir Putin to stop them at some point?
Absolutely, and it's high risk in that sense, Ryan. Think of it this way. This, in military speak, is called a salient, which is simply a peninsula of terrain you've captured driving into an opponent's territory. The good news is, as you occupy that salient, think of the top of a sorcerer's hat. You occupy that salient, you can go left, you can go right, you can keep going straight. The bad news is, and this is your question, Putin can surround it, potentially cut it off, trap thousands of Ukrainian troops in place. So I think what we're going to see is the Ukrainians digging in hard so that they have control of this salient and can repel. In other words, I think it's unlikely that they're going to continue this offensive in an aggressive way, but they do want to hold that terrain, not so much for the battlefield, Ryan, but ultimately for the negotiating table.
And we're seeing some heavy aerial attacks on Ukraine in civilian areas. And this is something that Putin did in the very beginning of this war as well, to kind of break the will of the Ukrainian people. There obviously have been disruptions to life in Kyiv and other cities, but the Ukrainian people have been remarkably resilient. Is this continuing to have an impact? How long can the Ukrainian people tolerate this?
I think a very long time. And think about Great Britain during the Blitz in World War II. Hitler thought that by just massively pummeling the Brits, he could crack the will of the civilian people. Didn't work out that way. And I would say there's a little whiff of Churchill when you look at Zelensky in this regard. He is very much a representative of his people. So look for Putin to continue this. And by the way, let's call this what it is. These are war crimes. When you attack theaters and maternity wards and shopping centers, civilian population centers, these are war crimes, and they are continuing. I think it'll be a failed strategy on the part of Putin, especially with those F-16s on station now.
Yeah, heartbreaking to see children in bomb shelters when they should be going to school and just enjoying their lives. Ukraine's defense minister at the Pentagon is at the Pentagon today, and the Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin continues to emphasize that the U.S. will support Ukraine. But officials in Kyiv say that Ukraine needs at least 130 of these F-16 fighter jets that you were talking about to fight Russia. I mean, how many do they have left? And can Ukraine's troops successfully fend off further Russian attacks if they don't get that support?
I think they will get that support. There are thousands of F-16 aircraft that are in the inventories of the United States, all our NATO allies, many other nations around the world. This jet, the F-16, is kind of Swiss Army knife. It can do air-to-air, it can do air-to-ground bombing kinds of runs, can do electronic warfare very well. Pretty simple to learn how to fly in the comparison with other more advanced jets. Very capable. I think ultimately they will end up with well over 100 of these coming from NATO, broadly speaking. I think that pipeline will continue. Final thought, Ryan. The other thing the Ukrainian foreign minister is talking to our defense minister, Lloyd Austin, about is gaining U.S. permission to conduct longer-range strikes inside Russian territory. Thus far, the U.S. has kind of held the Ukrainians back. I think the Ukrainians can lay out a pretty strong case. It's time to allow strikes 200 to 300 miles inside of Russia. Watch that space.
Okay, something to look for. Admiral James Stavridis, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.